Hello, this is Andy Deswani with the beta gameplay for my board game Escape the Circle. I decided to narrate the gameplay after actually playing through to give you a better idea of what is going on while I play. During this part of the video, I am setting the game up to play as two different players. As you can see, I kept my promise from the midterm and created 3 additional game pieces so that 6 people could play the game together. The benefit of the circular game board is that it is easy for 6 people to sit around the board and play comfortably together. For the first roll, I rolled a 1 and I landed on a frozen spot, which meant that I was stuck there for 2 turns. The maximum level you can reach in the fire starting skill is level 3, and if I was level 3, I wouldn't be stuck there for any turns. And for my second roll, for the second player, I landed on a windy spot, so I had to go back 3 spots. For both players in this game, I chose the endurance skill, which means that there's no possibility for me to level up in fire starting. On the turn I just did, nothing special happened and I just landed on a blank spot. And now I'm trying the 3DS for the first time to move around the board. Nothing significant happens for a few turns, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about some of the adaptations I made for this final. So as you might have noticed, the game board is definitely a lot bigger, and I think it took about 15 to 20 minutes to finish the whole game. There are now 2 decks of cards, one for combat and one for random events. And before, only positive outcomes were possible for random events, but now negative outcomes can occur too. And for that turn, I just landed on a windy spot, so I had to go back 3 spots. Landing on the windy spot was actually beneficial because it sent me back to a card spot, so I gained a level in endurance for the green character. Another significant change from the midterm to the final is that I changed from a real-time time interval to a turn-based one. And the reason I did this was I noticed that this game can get a bit confusing when a large group of people are playing, and the real-time time interval definitely didn't help out. And just then, the green character got sent back 3 spots because of a windy spot, so I lost the level of endurance I had gained for that character. Nothing significant happens again for another minute and a half, so I thought I would talk more about the adaptations I made. The combat system adds a lot of possibilities to make the game more interesting. When you draw a combat card, you will get one of 3 different cards, either a stun card, swap card, or a reset card. The stun card is similar to a frozen card in that it causes the opponent you choose to lose their next 2 turns. The swap card enables you to swap with an opponent if you roll one of the 3 numbers on the card. You have the option to hold on to the swap card and use it on someone who has used the reset card on you. Lastly, the reset card sends you back to the start. The swap card adds a skill aspect to my game because you can either choose to use it right away, which is beneficial in most cases, or as a strategic move, you can hold on to the swap card until you're on, let's say, the 5th layer, and then if someone sends you back to the start, you have a way to get back closer to the finish, and you're not completely out of the game. You can see so far that the game is really close, and I was happy that I made a game that can be competitive because it seemed like for my midterm it was too easy to beat, and usually one person would win the game very quickly. The blue character landed on a windy spot, so it was sent back 3 spaces. I'd like to go over some of the changes I made to the random events deck of cards. So for the midterm, there were three possibilities when drawing a card from this deck. You could basically gain a level in either endurance, fire starting, or teleportation. But I thought that this made the game a little too easy because nothing bad could really happen to the player when landing on a card spot. The only time a bad thing happened was when they landed on either a frozen spot or a windy spot. So now when a player lands on a card spot and they pick a random event, the player will have a 1 out of 3 chance of gaining a skill level, 1 out of 3 chance of losing a skill level, and a 1 out of 3 chance of getting sent back to the last green spot they passed. I think this also fixes the problem of mastering a skill too fast, which happened often in my prototype. I focused too much on the easy to learn part for the midterm, but I think that this change definitely helps improve the difficulty of the game and makes it easier for players to strategize. Players need to figure out on their own when it is better to draw a random event card or a combat card. For the final, it was definitely also important to make the game board shaped more like a circle because it was confusing when, for the midterm, the game was called Escape the Circle, but it was basically shaped like an oval. So it also made like making the actual game board easier. And I think for the midterm, there were about 40 spots between the start and the final, but I counted for this and it's over 120. Longevity is definitely important when playing a game because you don't want to finish in like 5 or 10 minutes. This is especially important when a small group of people are playing together. So I made the game about 3 times longer for this group. And it's good that I focused on both small groups and large groups because you definitely need a game that can be enjoyed in different scenarios and is more adaptable to a wider demographic. For this turn, the green character got really unlucky, and first he landed on a windy spot and was sent back 3 spots to another windy spot, so he had to go back six spots in total. And then the spot he landed on after all that was a frozen spot, which means that the blue character gets 2 turns in a row. And this gives the blue character a chance to catch up a little bit. This is another slow part, so I'll talk more about the equipment I used to make the game, as well as the equipment used while playing the game. So, the game board is just a cardboard box cut out into a circle, and there's about 120 spots on the board, and about 50 of them are covered with windy spots, frozen spots, and card spots. And then 4 green spots, which represent the end of each layer. And the major change from the midterm is that I'm no longer using an iPhone to move around the board as one of the options. I switched it to a 3DS because the 3DS is definitely a lot easier to work with. Like, for example, if you don't use the iPhone for a long time, then the screen shuts off and you have to like enter in your passcode again. But the 3DS always stays on. It's easy to start and stop the music, or I mean the sounds that tell you how many spaces to go. And you can put them on shuffle too. So it's definitely, I think, a better option for this game, and it would be easier to show a new player how to use it as an alternative to using the dice. In case you're confused, I actually messed up at that part and went in the wrong direction, so I had to put the green character in the right place where it's supposed to be. Then I landed on a card spot and received a negative outcome card that sent me back to the last green spot I passed. I landed on a windy spot with the blue character, so I was sent back 3 spots. So this part was interesting because the green character landed on a card spot, and I chose to draw a card from the combat deck, and I got the swap card, and so you have to roll a number, and then you're able to swap at the other player. But since the blue character and the green character were so close to each other, I chose to be strategic and save it for the end of the game in case the blue character sent the green character back to the start. So since I didn't roll and opted to just let the blue character go, this would mean I would have to roll and get the number in order to swap later in the game. This happened often where both the blue and green characters were in the same place on the board. And I talked about this earlier too, but I really liked how competitive the game ended up being, and it really came down to the wire, which is good, especially in a large group, because it would be really competitive. Though this could also be a problem if, say, 6 characters need to be on the same spot. So if I were to revise this game again, I may come up with something to help solve that. What just happened was the green character landed on a windy spot and was sent 3 spots back. So the green character landed on a card spot, and I decided to draw from the combat deck again. And I got the stun card, which would mean if I rolled the number that the blue character would be stuck for 2 turns, but I didn't get the number, so I just moved on to the blue character's turn. Just a heads up that nothing exciting happens again for another 50 seconds now, so that's when the narrations will start again. The green character landed on a windy spot, so he was sent back 3 spots. The blue character landed on a card spot, and so I gained a level in endurance for that character. The blue character landed on a windy spot and was sent back 3 spaces. The blue character landed on a card spot, so I chose to draw a card from the combat deck, and I did actually roll the 6 necessary to swap places, but they were so close to each other that it didn't really make a significant difference. They're kind of in the same position still. The blue character landed on a frozen spot, which means he would be stuck there for 2 turns. The green character landed on a windy spot, so he was sent back to the same spot as the blue character. So it was interesting how close the game was at the start of the 5th layer. I didn't anticipate this happening when I started playing, but it was definitely an interesting way for things to end. The green character landed on a card spot, and I chose a combat card and got the swap card, so I had to roll a 3 in order to swap with the blue character, and unfortunately I rolled a 5, so it didn't really matter because they were only 2 spots apart. The blue character landed on a card spot, and I drew from the combat deck, and I got the stun card, which means if I rolled one of the 3 numbers that I would be able to stun the other player for 2 turns. Unfortunately, I didn't get the number. So the green character landed on a frozen spot, which was a bad time because this means it gives the blue character 2 turns in a row. And now the blue character landed on a card spot and lost a skill level, but that's not a big deal because the game's almost over. And actually the blue character is about to be one spot away from the finish. An interesting thing happened on this next turn for the green character. If this is the turn, I think it is. Yeah, so the green character got the option to send the opponent back to the start. And this is what I mean when negative cards and combat cards made the game way more suspenseful, because I rolled a 4, but if I had rolled a 1, then the blue character would be all the way back at the beginning, and the green character would pretty much win the game. And that would be a complete turn of events, because I think actually the green character ends up winning anyway, but the blue character was in the position, or is in the position to win at the moment.